It's one of them things that when you do it, you ask yourself, how come I never thought of doing this before? Because the results, it's so good and it makes so much sense. Now, I really like tuna paste. I grew up on tuna paste. Bread and tuna is one of my favorite things to have, but I never thought about doing it with like raw tuna. Obviously, the go-to is you buy tuna in a tin and you make it right. Now, the first thing you might be thinking is, this sounding like it's real expensive. And actually, you would be wrong. Because tuna in the market, well, in Central Market in particular, is $20 a pound. And the tuna in the tin is like $12 a tin, roughly. And this is 136 grams of tuna, while this is 1 pound, which is 453 grams, I think. So basically, to make up a pound, you have to pay like 3 times the price to come up to 1 pound of tuna. So we're paying $20 per pound fresh in the market. You'd be paying more than $36 per pound if you're buying it in the tin. So, I mean, you do the math. It makes more sense to do this. And of course, with this, I mean, yes, you had to cook it still because I don't know if people know. You should know that the tuna that we get in the tin here is cooked. You'll have to cook it, but you have the benefit of cooking this the way that you want and making it taste the way that you want. So, to me, just make real sense. And of course, the results real best. Like the comparison, it had no comparison. This doing a tuna salad made with raw tuna compared to the tin, chalk and cheese. So, let me get into this. So the first thing we want to do is cook the tuna, and to do that, we're going to bake it. Now, this is very important, very, very important. You want your tuna at room temperature. Yes, not chilled out of the fridge and definitely not frozen. You want it at room temperature before you cook it. And that would allow for a more precise cooking time. If you try to cook it while it's still cold, or if it's frozen, obviously it'll need to defrost in the oven before it actually starts to like cook properly. And that, I mean, you'll end up with a dry fish, a dry out fish, and we don't want that. We want the fish nice and moist and well cooked. So make sure that your tuna is at room temperature before you start to prep it. So I'm just gonna cut these into like little steaks. Just a little bit of oil. We want to coat all the pieces. And now let's make a quick rub for our fish. I have a teaspoon of celery seeds, teaspoon of onion powder, teaspoon of garlic powder, teaspoon of smoked paprika, half a teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of MSG. Give that a mix. Now we're going to sprinkle it all over our fish. I'm going to give it a rub. Make sure that all the pieces well coated. Alright, so the fish well seasoned here. So to bake our tuna steaks, I'm just going to line my baking tray with some parchment paper here. Now rest the steaks in. Now I'm going to cover it with another piece of parchment paper. And then cover it with foil. Just going to seal it in there. Alright, so we have our fish prepped here. We're going to pop this in the oven at 375 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so while our tuna is baking in the oven, we're going to prep our other ingredients. I'm going in with half of a purple onion. And I want to try and chop this as finely as possible. I like a little spiciness to my tuna salad, so I'm using half of a Scotch bonnet pepper here. Again, giving it a fine mince. 2 cloves of garlic. And I want to mince this as fine as possible. Going in with 3 pimentos as well. And for the herbs, I'm using some dill, fresh dill. Giving that a fine chop. Also going in with some shadow benny. If you can't find shadow benny where you are, you could always use parsley or cilantro. Add in some tomatoes to the mix as well. I'm just going to cut these into small cubes. Some black olives. I mean, this is totally optional, but I like the taste that black olives gives to this tuna in particular, this tuna piece. Also add in about a tablespoon of capers. Just gonna give these a chop and mince them. Alright, so this is our tuna out of the oven. So now I just want to place them into a bowl, place the pieces into a bowl, and drain that liquid, all those juices. I could use 2 forks and just shred it. I mean, truth be told, I should have shredded this while it was still hot to make it easier. So that's a good tip. You can shred it while it's still hot, and it'll be an easier task than shredding it while it's cool. Alright, so we have our tuna mashed, and like I mentioned before, the better thing to do is to mash this while the tuna is still hot. It'll be a much easier task. Alright, so at this point I want to add 2 tablespoons of lime juice to our tuna. Just going to give that a good mix. So we have a nice seasoned fish. It's not just bland fish that we put into a seasoned mayonnaise base. The fish is well seasoned, well flavored, so that you get full flavor going straight through this dish. Okay, so you're going to start with a couple of tablespoons of mayo, and the amount of mayo used here is up to you, is your preference. Add in our onions, garlic, pimento, Scotch bonnet pepper, capers, dill, shadow benny. And remember, if you can't find shadow benny, you could always use cilantro instead. Black olives, tomatoes. Add in a little touch of mustard, probably like half a teaspoon. Now we're going to give this a good mix. And already smelling all the different components just coming to life here as you combine it. The aromas just hitting you. Okay, so now I'm gonna add my tuna. Alright, looking good here. Everything seems to be well combined. So just adding the juice of 1 more lime here. And I mean, this is all based on your preference, right? I like a nice, limey, citrusy tuna paste. And as you can see, this yields a proper batch of tuna here, enough to feed the family for a couple of days. Well, you can make a couple sandwiches well for breakfast, lunch, or dinner with this next level tuna salad or tuna paste, as we call it. Okay, so the only thing left to do now is to put some of our lovely tuna paste into a nice loaf here. Let's give this a try. I realized I can't start to talk yet, right? That's to tell you how good this is going on. So yeah, I finally put the sandwich down and say, let me close off this video so I can get back to eating the sandwich. So I'm not going to stand here and disparage tuna in the tin, because tuna in the tin has been good to many of us. If I had to be honest, I'd quicker open a can of tuna and make stewed tuna rather than, stewing it from, fresh tuna. But for the purposes of tuna salad, you really can't beat using fresh tuna. It's like chalk and cheese. And I think one of the main things is that you actually get to cook and season the fish just the way that you want it to taste. So it's flavor right through. And I mean, it's cheaper than buying it in the tin as well. So that is an added bonus. A little less convenient because, it's a little longer prep, a longer cooking time. But trust and believe, yeah, this is the way to go. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and give it a share. I will post a recipe in the video description, so look out for that link. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please take a moment to do so. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.